Welcome to the Hank Cisco Show. I'm John Doyle sitting in for Hank. Hank is still at his home convalescing, and we always keep him in our thoughts and prayers. But what we're going to do here is we're going to have a conversation. And today we have the opportunity to have a candidate for Montgomery County Commissioner on the air, and we're extraordinarily excited to be able to talk to Dean Eisenberger today during the show. So we hope you'll stay tuned in and enjoy. As Hank would say, don't touch that dial, don't press that mouse button, and listen to this lovely conversation we're going to have today. Dean, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Doyle, for having me.
Yeah, great to have you. So you're running for Montgomery County Commissioner.
I am.
Can you just tell me what inspired you to make that choice to run for Commissioner?
Well, I've been blessed in my life, and that being said, I wanted to give back to the community. I've been serving for the last 8 years on council in Plymouth Township. Thought that my fiscal background and my business background and my governmental background provided me with the opportunity to do a better job and get things done in the county for our constituents and the people of Montgomery County.
That's great. You mentioned your background a little bit. Can we talk a little bit about that? Do you mind if I ask you some questions?
Would love to.
So you were a police officer, am I correct?
That is correct.
And for 14 years?
14 years. I started my career up in northern Montgomery County in Franconia Township. After 6 months of there, I was hired full-time in Plymouth Township. I ran through the ranks from 1985, starting there as a patrolman to juvenile officer for 3 years, working in the Colonial School District. And from there, I made patrol sergeant. And then when I left, I was a lieutenant and a patrol commander in the detective division.
That's great. And tell me a little bit about that experience of police officer. Like, why is that important to you?
I think that background, being here on the Hank Cisco Show with his background, that means so much to us. When I got involved in politics, to have that kind of background, knowing what the public service part of this was. My duty service and my service to my community was extremely important to me. Serving for those 14 years, serving the community, the children, and the people that lived in Plymouth was just the greatest opportunity in my life.
And talk to me about, as a police officer, what are the principles of being a police officer that you found most important? Like, what are those things?
I think it's integrity. I think it's the integrity of doing the job and taking it onto the street. People know an honest person, and people know they want to be dealt with fairly. I think if anyone that has met me or who has seen me, and when I worked as a police officer, knew that I was an honest person trying to help them. It was my job, and as a supervisor, teaching those within my patrol ranks, and then teaching at the police academy, teaching intro to criminal justice and teaching dealing with the mentally ill. These type of experiences in life, I think, have brought me to the next level. And when I entered personal life, I took that with me.
And what was maybe the most rewarding moment out of that police experience? Can you think about a moment that
yeah, I think we had a couple incidents. I've had a couple incidents that I was there, but I was given the David Hancock Award for Montgomery County Fraternal Order of Police. I was on undercover detail, and there was a fire in a home, and there was a woman on the second floor in a smoke-filled building, and I happened to be within the block when the call came out, and I responded and retrieved her from the home before she was trapped.
Yeah, that's amazing, and those kind of moments, those sharp, quick choices to do the honorable, brave thing. I mean, that's really wonderful.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're recognized. It's great.
Yeah, it was one of the highlights of my career, and being honored for all different styles of investigations and things during my career, that really sticks out. And being honored by all the municipalities. Lodge 14 serves the entire county, other than 3 other lodges, the majority of the county, excuse me, and I felt at that point, being honored by so many police officers who were members, it was such an honor at the time.
That's great. And you're also, though, not just law enforcement. You have a career with business as well, right? You worked in a company called L&E Mobile Computers and Mounts, or something like that.
I did. I was the E in the L&E, in Mobile Computers and Mounts, which turned out to be First Mobile Technologies after we were purchased. During my career as a police officer, I saw the need for computers inside of the vehicles. And what we were seeing at the time was technology in the early 90s that was not being integrated for the police officer. I took my knowledge and then some of the background in electronics, and we took and started a company that ended up growing into a national company in 4 states with manufacturing in Wisconsin, sales in Houston and the Woodlands, Texas, offices in California, and also here in Conshohocken. And eventually having 54 employees, $1 million payroll, and taking that experience of operating that business and then being purchased by an extremely large company, taking the technology into theirs. We were purchased by First Group America, First Services Corporation. They're part of the company that owns First Student, the yellow school buses that you see in our local districts.
And we use, right?
Correct. And part of Greyhound, and we took technology into the buses under the DOT, safety technology that was required. I can't discuss the details of, but
sure.
That technology was an integral part of the company that I ran for the next 13 years as an employee of the company that purchased us.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. So the idea to start the company was about a need you saw?
Yes. Inside the vehicles, I mean, we were more of, at the time in the county, we were just starting new radio systems. We were just starting new systems of computer technology. You got to remember when the internet was coming out and all this, how were we going to be transmitting data within the police cars? And the integral part of that was we wanted to dock and undock equipment in the car, take it out, which turned out to be rugged laptops, taking that out of the vehicle and then bringing that with the officer in to do his reports, his report writing, all the different things that were required out there in the street that you were doing by radio, and then finally having to go do paper reports, we were trying to eliminate. This was the ground floor for that technology.
So you're suggesting to me that what that you were doing wasn't just safety and security, but it was also logistical, like managing, helping the police officer manage.
It was everything from GPS. Now, that technology has increased in the years that I spent up until 2016 in that business. I mean, 20-some years of working with that technology as a police officer, as a business owner, and then as an employee for an extremely large company. That technology of tracking vehicles, that technology of report writing, that technology of safety for the officers, for dispatch, all that was incorporated into one unit inside of a vehicle, keeping that officer on the street for longer periods of time, not taking him out of services, keeping him in service. And that was something I was integral in trying to get done.
So at that point in 2016, you make a shift into the world of local politics. And you become a commissioner in Plymouth Township.
Yes, the council is, people have to understand, Plymouth is a little bit different setup than most municipalities.
Okay.
Plymouth is a home rule, first-class municipality, meaning it has its own charter, it has its own rules and regulations. I was elected in 2009 and served to 2017 or January of 18. During that service, we have term limits. Unlike many municipal governments, we were only allowed to serve 2 full terms, and at that time, you could not run again. That's where we find ourselves today.
Okay, and so at this point, you have finished that role because that role was finished by the rules of the charter, and now you're looking for another way to serve, and commissioner seems to be a direction that you're looking.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes. We, I was approached after I finished. My record in Plymouth, I am very proud of. What we did in Plymouth Township and infrastructure-wise carried on, and then being asked now to run for county commissioner by local people that trusted me in Plymouth said, why don't we take it to the next level? And I delayed a little bit, but I said I had the time and I have the desire. It was something that I felt that I could do a better job from the experiences that I've had in life. I think that's what differentiates me. I have different experiences. I have much more experience than the other candidates, and having this diverse background makes me a different kind of candidate.
Great. Talk to me a little bit about this idea of dedicated public safety funding.
Yes, in Plymouth, there are accomplishments that I'm extremely proud of. One of them is dedicating to our emergency services. As you know, volunteer services, when it comes to our fire and ambulance, have become very hard to recruit people to do these jobs. Funding our 2 fire departments in Plymouth, we enacted an assessment to allow that our fire companies didn't have to have their hands out all the time in trying to keep those volunteer fire companies afloat. By dedicating the funds through the township, now our 2 fire companies, with a sum of $900,000 a year, are receiving $450,000 apiece to fund their departments, to fund their equipment, to fund their training, to fund, now we're even required, we're providing payment for those that respond to calls to cover their gas. It's small, but covering their stipends and different things to cover what they're using as being a volunteer.
And I guess that's not just as a way of saying thank you, but really to make it function better.
Absolutely. How many times in our local areas, our ambulance, who's responding where, who's going to what? Our fire departments are dedicated now in Plymouth. We are guaranteed public safety. They are rated at the highest levels from the National Fire Protection Agency, from the levels of our fire departments to protect our citizens and our businesses. We have a very diverse community when it comes to industrial, to retail, to our residential. So we learned that if we were going to continue these services, we had to be able to make sure 20 years from now they were still being funded. And I'm so proud of that part of my job.
And you also enacted a responsible contractor ordinance? Am I correct
Yes,
about
the that?
responsible
responsible contractors ordinance.
What's that? I don't know anything.
Well, the responsible contractors ordinance is the buzzword you're going to see politically in a lot of different areas.
Okay.
Plymouth was probably the guinea pig. There were 2 different items that were being tried. Locally, we had local contractors trying to do work for us, and then our board shifted on my first 2 years to minority controlled, and I went into the minority on that board. Democratic control moved, and they moved 2 words, apprenticeship program, into everything that we did in the municipal government. Naturally, your local businesses, your concrete workers, your people that local carpenters, people that did your local work like sidewalks, curbing,
Right.
your storm drains, and those were then excluded from bidding on any of the local projects after they've been doing it for 34 years, 40 years, 30 years. They were involved. They're family-owned businesses, extremely well-liked, do great jobs for all of us, and we couldn't hire them anymore because of those 2 words. When I took back over in 2 years and we took back control, we removed the 2 words, kept everything else in the responsible contractors, prevailing wage, paying safety, workman's comp, all the things that are necessary for our workers. But we took the 2 words out because they couldn't comply. You didn't have an apprentice program, you couldn't comply. We then brought that back. And I can give you an example.
Yeah, great.
We had a project around the Greater Plymouth Community Center located on Jolly Road to put sidewalks in. We received 3 quotes. The low bid was $80,000 from a local contractor,
Okay.
and 2 of the other ones were from 2 union contractors, and their closest was $160,000. That type of money goes to the bottom line, and that fiscal responsibility, they're the type of things that have to be done and looked at in government. Getting the right work for the right dollar, and the responsible contractors ordinance is now being heard because of democratic control, moving into different areas, and things that are changing and flipping, whether it's in our school districts. Our new school district boards are looking at this type of legislation within their school districts on who they can use and who they can't. We're not saying hire anyone who's not qualified, because remember, the ordinance is the same other than the 2 words, and the apprentice program is what differentiates the whole thing.
Right.
So that's the way we saw it, and that's the way we cut our budget down and made surplus for when I left.
And that's an active conversation that the commissioners are having as well at their meetings right now. This conversation you're just bringing up about what's happened to Plymouth is something that's actively happening in Montgomery County.
And many municipalities will be facing this over the next few years.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So 2 other things that I'd love to hear about. One is the idea of having a general fund balance, and that's something that you feel is an accomplishment during your time?
Yeah, it is so important. In Montgomery County, people talk about tax rates and they talk about local, and everybody receives a local tax bill, which includes your local municipal government, your school district, and then on top of that, you have your county, which is all put together. So we pay the first one, and our municipal government is a tax rate that we look at. For the years that I served in Plymouth, we never raised our base tax rate.
Through the 8 years?
Through the 8 years. It has remained the same at 1.6 mils. It still remains that way today. During that period, and you have to understand what you receive for that 1.6 mils, The average homeowner pays approximately $300 in local taxes. But in that tax, and in Plymouth, they receive all services. And what does that mean? I have a sister who lives in a local municipality. She pays more for her trash collection than the average person in Plymouth pays for their entire tax, for the local tax. So when you look at government services, this is what is so important, that when I was operating in the government and as chairman of council, that we provided everything from police, fire, ambulance. All your public safety issues are covered, of course, but we cover your trash pickup, your leaf removal, your waste, garbage, all the different things, from plowing of your streets. Every service in the township was covered, including repair of your roads. So when you're looking at different municipal governments, and they start saying our taxes are low, I've been to many. They're very dark at night. There's no street lights on.
Right.
Plymouth has entire street light coverage. That's carried in our fire hydrants are carried in our local taxes. Okay. These are the things that are extremely important when I try to differentiate, and why I believe that the services that Plymouth provide are above the standards in which other municipalities operate. These are the type of standards I'd like to bring to the county government, type of things that county government must do, provide the basics, but without putting the burden on the taxpayer.
Okay, and finally, like a whole different way of sort of a different journey, I guess we'll take, and that is about trails. And one of the things that's amazing about Montgomery County is the trail system, right?
That's great.
Massive.
It's great.
And in open space. And I'm interested to hear sort of your what you think the accomplishments you had during your time at Plymouth were in relationship to open space and trails.
We were blessed, and one of the things and one of the initiatives as chairman on council was we were looking at grants regarding county grants, state grants, federal grants. We actually had people and consultants working to get us grant money to do these expansions and look at these different things. The interconnectivity of our community, I think, is paramount. Putting sidewalks in on every new development, putting sidewalks in on every new home that's built, making the connectivity to the cross-county trail, which comes across our metroplex along the center of Plymouth Township, making connections to the Schuylkill River Trail, the SRT, that runs the river along Plymouth Township between Conshohocken and Norristown. These things were extremely important to me to make sure that we were constantly looking on how to improve, how to gain the funds to do that, and how to gain the opportunity to interconnect all of our communities together. This was my goal, and something that during my 8 years we ran hard on. And everybody knows, whether you're Democrat, Republican, or Independent in Plymouth, Dean always pushed to have that connectivity. We have one of the largest parks that's now next to some farmland in the county, Harriet Weatherall Park, 120 acres that are preserved in Plymouth Township now, along Narcissa Road and Butler Pike. A beautiful park if people haven't been there. Open park with walking trails, nature garden, butterfly gardens, stuff that we were very proud of in our community and as council to bring that to the residents of Plymouth.
Okay, that's great. Plymouth, I record the county commissioner meetings. I hear Plymouth Township mentioned often in those meetings. And so did you have a relationship with the county government as a Plymouth
We do.
councilman?
We actually our relationship with the county government, we're doing a 2040 study right now, the same as the county did. In conjunction, we thought with our planning, we thought that we should be updating our plans to meet what the county was going to be doing, since everything was integrated and will be integrated together. We didn't want to have a separate and distinct plan, separate from what the county had already been working on. So we engaged the county, and under contract now, we are working with the county to do the plan for the 2040 plan in Plymouth Township. That will include all these different connectivity issues and how we will be developing the open lands in Plymouth Township. So that has been a great advantage for us, working with the county to get that done.
So if I asked you so you're running, right? What are the biggest issues facing Montgomery County right now in your mind as you approach this job?
I think the biggest issues right now for the county are fiscal issues. I think the things that are working on that they're working on and working on here in the county with infrastructure issues, attending the meetings, just in the last couple weeks, seeing that we just put out 3 different bonds for $160 million. One to refinance a bond, one to do infrastructure improvements, and one to do cleanup, or as they say, on problems around the county from other issues. that money would be designated later. Here we just now pushed out $160 million out past 2040. Not all bonds are bad, but some at the levels in which we're talking about, under a $420 million budget, $425 million proposed budget for this fiscal year in the county, that's a quarter of what we're doing. So I think those type of issues we have to be looking at daily. Then projects like our courthouse that went from something that we were started at $150 million renovation, now has been tabled and upwards of $450 million being spent for our courthouse. Where is that going? What's that doing? That fiscal responsibility. We need to be looking into it. When budgets are being completed and being done, whether you're a majority or a minority, you have to be involved. You have to be able to give solutions. And right now, the lip service and the things that are being done, I feel, are opposite to productivity. Whether or not you're Republican or Democrat, if you're on this board, come with solutions. And whether or not it's agreed upon or not, state your differences, state your opinions, and let's get this done. Because this is our future. This is our children's future. And by continuing to look at bonds and to do different things and to raise taxes, money doesn't solve problems, people do. And I think the right people need to be in place.
And one of the things about Montgomery County that's interesting, right, is it's a deliberately split commissioners board, right?
It is.
So how do you feel you're going to fit into a board that by its nature is going to have two different parties, both, who knows who will be majority or minority, right? And how does that relationship work for you? And over the past 20 years, it's been everything from really pleasant to really, really cantankerous. So what do you see yourself in that role?
I am definitely a mediator. I am someone who likes to work through problems. I have the unique experience of functioning in the local political arena in a minority-controlled, as a minority on a board, still working to get things done in 2 years, and then working as the majority. I've seen both sides. I've seen the things that are necessary to get the projects completed, that are necessary, because at a local level, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I was for Plymouth. At this level, I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm for the county. Montgomery County is what I'm here for. That's the important thing. And by building bridges and not burning bridges, this is what gets things done in government. Name calling, finger pointing, they do not solve issues. And I can guarantee you that if I have the opportunity to serve, whether a majority or minority, we will work to get things done for the people of Montgomery County, regardless of political affiliation.
That's great, yeah. So in fact, you sort of see that political split as non-issue in some ways.
I don't. Okay. And I think my record speaks to that. I think that's the one thing that differentiates me. My experience and my record, I don't need to talk the talk. I've already done the walk. And I encourage your viewers to do that research on me, that I've done this. When I started on the commissioner as a councilman in Plymouth, we were $3.5 million in deficit spending for 2.5 years. We were running red. We were bleeding. When I left in Plymouth Township, we had an $8 million surplus. I left them with an $8 million rainy day fund. I'm very proud of that. And that's the type of ideas, cross the aisle, things that have to be done, whether I've served with Democrats, I've served with Republicans, and we all work together to get things done.
And you're saying that increase in what amounts to the rainy day fund did not, in fact, steal services from people in the county?
We did not cut any services in Plymouth. We did not cut anything there. It was a gain within our general fund from our operations of government. Cutting retirement, consolidating jobs, doing the right thing within the staffing. When you're running a government of a $23 or $24 million budget with 300 employees at a community center, locally you have an ASME union, you have the Fraternal Order Police unions, you have contracts in which you have to be a part of. I've negotiated those contracts. I've been involved with those contracts. I understand the back end of those contracts and the pension issues that are involved, the minimal municipal obligations that are required by the state, in which now the county will be facing on their pension programs, and the problems that they're going to be having with these large amounts of money. I focused on those problems and we fixed them, and that's why they were left with $8 million.
Wow, that's something else. Talk to me a little bit about what, I've heard you say how you're going to work to protect the taxpayers and work towards community needs. And I've heard a lot about your community needs parts here. When you say protect the taxpayers, what do you mean by
Well,
that?
in government today, what we're finding is let's do another research project, let's do another consultant, let's get another engineering firm involved. There's never getting to the end of a solution. Around in our area, we had a bridge go out. And because of the amount of people that use that bridge on Plymouth Road, some 100,000 cars a day, connection by the Pennsylvania Turnpike and everything, jobs can be done. It was completed in 4 months from engineering to completion of the new bridge after the bridge was found to be faulty. But yet we wait for other projects, we wait for other areas, and we prioritize things in the wrong way. I think by being hands-on, being a guy that's going to be involved with these type of projects, who's going to be a full-time commissioner, somebody that's in the building, that's involved with the different departments that are out there, making sure that these things are getting done. I think that's what makes me different.
That's great. And, you know, it seems like you're like a man of action, and that's interesting to me, certainly. What you see? How do you feel your business experience is going to impact your ability to function in county government?
You know, when it's your money, and you're working with a payroll of over $1 million a year, and you have to make every 2 weeks those payroll issues, and you have to make sure that the people that are employed by you and their families are receiving those checks, and also that you're paying the federal government off of those type of things. That type of pressure builds into you and instills into you this position of responsibility that we've got to do and keep continuing moving forward, keep doing the right thing, keep doing what's right for us. That private business experience and having that, many people don't understand the pressures that are placed upon you when you're doing that, and the money flow and the cash flow issues that are involved. That pressure taught me to be an accountant, to be a balance sheet reader, to be somebody that looks for every nickel and dime, because it all adds up at the end of the day. My experience with that alone, and having the 54 families that worked for me, really took it to my heart and made me realize that I had a responsibility, and not just running a business, but helping the families that were helping me.
Great. So tell me how it's been on the campaign trail so far.
Wow, since December, we've been running ragged. I mean, every day we are out and about. We are trying to be with everybody we can. We try and take as much as we can from the public, trying to be engaged with all different aspects of requests, to be at different functions within the county, governmental functions, private functions, community days, anything that's necessary. But it's been extremely enjoyable for me. I feel like I need to give back. This is my service back to the community. And the response has been humbling. The people that I meet out here has been fantastic. And I thank them all. And I think the people that know me know that I'm the right guy for the job, and I will get the job done if I am elected.
And it's a big county, right? So
Huge.
how's been that journey going around county trying to
450 plus square miles with 825,000 plus residents. It's an amazing county. It's an amazing, the third largest in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It is amazing to me the diversity of its population, how caring, how considerate people are, and how they've embraced my campaign to become the next county commissioner.
So people watch the show, they want to find out more about who you are, they want to follow up in some way. How can they go about doing that?
DeanForCommissioner.com. I welcome to do that. I am on Facebook, Dean Eisenberger for Commissioner, and they are welcome to do that. I have a Twitter account and all the feeds that are necessary on our social media.
And they're all Dean for Commissioner, am I right?
Dean for Commissioner.
That's
We've
great.
tried to simplify it.
That's good. It's easy for people to
Easy
figure
to
that
remember.
out, right? And certainly Dean, as opposed to spelling Eisenberger, perhaps, is even
Yes.
stronger. So that's great. So Dean for Commissioner is how they can find out more.
Yes.
And are you looking for support from the community in any way besides their vote at this point?
No. What I'm asking from the community is that for those that do know me, please tell your friends and neighbors about the experienced person that's here and is now running for county commissioner, and that's somebody that can make a drastic change and the way government operates here in Montgomery County.
That's great. I got to tell you, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you.
You also.
And we're running out of time right now, so I'm going to sort of close the conversation, say thank you
Doyle,
so much
thank you. It
for
was a
being
pleasure
here.
meeting you.
Yeah, a real joy to talk to you. Folks, we had the opportunity to talk with Dean Eisenberger, who's running for Montgomery County Commissioner this year, 2019. The primaries are, if I remember right, May 21st, and
Yes.
we hope you get out and vote no matter who you vote for, but today you learned a little bit about a candidate who you may want to investigate more with. Again, you can find out more information at Dean for Commissioner, and that's on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all the rest of those wonderful assets. And again, we thank you for watching us on The Hank Cisco Show. You can find us on Hank Cisco on YouTube. The Hank Cisco Show is our YouTube channel, or on NASD TV. And again, thanks so much for watching. And as Hank would say, all sunshine brings deserts, so it's okay to have a little bit of rain. Hank, you're in our thoughts again, and thank you so much for watching.